Hello and welcome to Tech and More. So today let's talk about Salesforce testing in specific. And if you have been in the IT world or are aspiring to enter into the IT world and know a bit about it, you must be knowing about Salesforce, even if not in detail. But you have an idea that Salesforce is something which is at boom right now, right? So uh, I sort out three tips or three important factors regarding Salesforce testing that everybody should know before starting their career in Salesforce. So let's start. The first one is that what career growth can you expect as a Salesforce QA engineer in comparison to other professions, or sorry, in comparison to other domains? Hello and welcome to Tech and More. So, today let's talk about Salesforce testing and top three things that you ought to know before you plan to enter into the Salesforce domain as a tester. So, let's start. The first one is the career growth that you can expect as a Salesforce QA engineer when you compare it with other domains as a QA engineer. So, the most critical point is that in general, QA professionals or QA consultants with Salesforce experience tend to get 40 to 50% higher compensation as compared to their peers in other domains, right? So, for example, if there is a QA consultant who has an experience in the Salesforce domain specifically, right? And if there is a person who's not that expert in Salesforce and they're working in some other domain, right? But they're not working in Salesforce specifically. So there'll be an approximately difference of 40 to 50% in the compensation, which is huge. So imagine you're earning 10 lakhs or 10 lakh INR as a non-Salesforce QA consultant, and then you have a Salesforce expertise, then you ought to get 40 to 50% more. 40 to 50% more. That is 15 lakhs, which is huge, right? So that is the power of Salesforce. And what I'm saying here is not just a random fact. I am myself experienced into this domain, and I have a lot of people in this circle, so I know what I'm talking about, and this is a fact, and you can do some research at your end as well. And so I mean that makes it a very important tip number one. Then related to that, there are so many different clouds in Salesforce, that is sales, service, community, marketing, analytics, and so many more clouds, right? So there is a huge potential to grow. Cool. Now let's jump on to the next uh, tip or the next thing, right? So what makes Salesforce testing different is, or you can call it as the challenges of Salesforce testing as well. That is, the number one is device testing is a must as a part of Salesforce testing as suggested by the Salesforce team. So this is very important, right? So if you are working as a Salesforce consultant, you will always have to test on the device as well, which becomes a challenge, but at the same time it becomes a very good strength, or it becomes a very great thing, because you are able to get more work, the scope increases, right? Number two, Salesforce lightning experience may not behave as expected in a few situations. For example, the lightning experience does not work in private mode on Firefox. So it is not that you, I mean, usually we test only in Google Chrome, but it is advised that you test it in other browsers as well, because it is claimed by Salesforce that yes, it works very fine in Chrome, but yes, it will work in other browsers as well, but it might not behave as expected, so it is important to test it there. Number three, a couple of functionalities might work in Salesforce Lightning but not Salesforce Classic. This is a big fact, and that is why people who are migrating from Classic to Lightning are, I mean, they plan their testing budgets and everything happens because things are working differently in Classic and Lightning. Number four, the dev team focuses more on creating Lightning components functionality wise, but might miss the UI aspect, which is very important. See, as developers, you primarily focus on creating the functionalities. That is it. But as QA consultants, our job, our task is to make sure that the UI is configured correctly. And when I say correctly, I mean as you gain experience, you try and you start learning the importance, the criticality of user experience, right? So that is what your job is. You have to make sure that the functionality is working fine. That is true. But at the same time, you have to make sure that the user interface experience is also good, right? So these are the different challenges or different things that make Salesforce testing a bit different in general. these 4 pointers. And this is a very normal question, a very generic question asked in the interview. So make sure that you do look at these 4 pointers and you have some content or data before going for that interview. Next, that is tip number 3: what to and what not to test in a typical Salesforce system. So, Salesforce is an out of the box functionality. That is, a lot of things are already pre-configured. So this question might be asked to you, that what is the criticality of a QA consultant in the Salesforce domain, which is true, because you have to explain it that if a lot of things are already configured, why are you coming into the picture? That is, there are a lot of standard functionalities, but those standard functionalities cannot be used directly. These They are basically the weapons that are provided to you. So understand it in the context that you're going for a war. The weapons are provided to you, right? But these weapons, how to use them, where to use them, in which situation to use which weapon, that is something that consultants like you and me do, like the development consultants or the QA consultants, right? So uh, the workflow rules, validation rules, customizations as a result of Apex programming, integrations, everything is done as per the customer's need with the help of standard tools or standard functionalities provided by Salesforce. This might be a bit tricky for you, but if you're someone who has some basic idea about the Salesforce testing, you will be able to make sense out of it. Still, if you have any questions or any queries, please feel free to reach out to us. Okay. Then, of course, as I was saying, the things that are created or customized or configured by the team, by the consultants, are to be tested, like workflow rules, validation rules, and all the other listed on the screen. Correct. Now, the next question is what not to test. That is basic testing. So these are a couple of functionalities that, if not tested regressively, will not create an issue. For example, reports, dashboards, folders, list views, these functionalities are standard. So Salesforce as a product, as a company, is already building and testing these things, right? And you're not supposed to test this. They're already tested, and there are not a lot of changes that can be done by the consultants as well, right? So it is better not to spend your time on testing them. So these are the things that you are not required to test. So I hope that this particular quick thing helps you out in understanding that what is the criticality of Salesforce testing. Three major tips that you ought to have when you are planning to enter into the Salesforce domain. I hope that this was helpful, and if you have any queries or any questions, please let us know, and we will be more than happy to connect. Thank you.